What's going on, gamers? It's Phil H here from Beneath the Veil, and welcome back to the channel, and Happy New Year. Please excuse my absence from the channel for the last month. Unfortunately, I had a death in the family, so had to put the channel on hold for a month, just around the Christmas period as well. But we are back for another year, and today I wanted to start a series as we watch this first fight breakout, which we unfortunately lose. I wanted to go over a sort of series for each role, for those players who are new to specific roles, and give you sort of a 10 to 15 step action plan that you can activate, that you can use rather every game, to try and get more consistent results in the roles that you're not used to playing. So today we're going to start with position 5, hard support, and we'll work our way up in farm priority, finishing with position 1. So today I'm playing a Crystal Maiden. As you can see here, one of the first points to playing a good position 5 is to help your position 1 secure lane equilibrium. So the way that laning dynamics work in Dota is that typically the two core heroes will want to be controlling the lane equilibrium to keep it in front of their tower so that they can safely farm. So as you see here, the Drow can't really be threatened because if I hold Alt here, you see that she's standing underneath tower range. The other benefit to her is that she also gets this tower protection, so she gets an additional 3 armor and health regen is increased by 1. As I've talked about in previous videos, an armor increase of 3 is actually really significant, especially in the early levels, because as you can see here, her physical resistance is currently 30%, and then if she wanders back into, actually let's just roll back so that she stands back in the tower range here. You can see that now her physical resistance jumped up to 38%. So throughout the game, trying to keep your carry underneath their own, or your core rather, underneath their own tower, frees you up to do a lot more as a support player. The other thing to consider when you're playing hard support as well, and in general any support role, is that you want to try and get as many levels on your core as you can, while not, cucking yourself out of your own levels as well. So for me, my most important factor to consider is that I want to hit level 6, but I also want to make sure that my Drow Ranger in this case gets enough levels early on, that she can get some critical HP on board, as well as, get some value skill points in her silence, for instance, which she doesn't have yet. So yeah. In this case, I'm getting I think I end up going like a 1-1-2 or a 2-1-1 build, just to try and get a little bit of mana regen for the Drow in lane, and then also try and provide a little bit of control. For some reason, they decided to run a Visage position 4 and a Faceless Void position 3. So I've got a bit of room where I can punish here. I do have to be wary of the lane equilibrium though, so as you can see, as Drow unfortunately dies there, one thing to really be aware of is that in situations like this, so they've got 2 archers here, and then we've only got 1 creep left, which is our melee creep. So this lane is always going to be pushing until I equalize the amount of archers that are battling against each other. This lane is going to push. So at the moment, I'm actually happy to keep these archers alive for now and let the lane continue to push into me, because it will push the lane back here so that frees me up to do more around the map. So unfortunately, my Drow dies here because Soul Assumption is incredibly strong early levels. And here I'm just trying to put out additional harass where I can. Visage is still relatively weak at this point, as is Faceless Void, so I do want to try and assert some dominance, but I do want to be wary of where the creep equilibrium is. You can see that I'm only making these moves when, if we go back to this, you can see that right now, if I pause the state of the game, I've got 3 melee creeps and an archer, and they've only got 1 melee creep that's about to die and an archer. So actually my creep wave is currently stronger. So until this creep wave, that should be around here by now, meets up, I can actually posture aggressively and start to harass. And then the second that creep wave starts to meet up, then I have to respect the power of the creep wave as well and start to fall back. So you see that I position right in front of tower range, and then as soon as that creep wave is back, now I start to pull back and look to do other things. So I've already blocked their creep camp, so you can see here. So now I'm starting to think about what I want to do next. So I know that since it's gone 3 minutes already, there's a bounty rune here, so I'll grab that. And then I'll look to, at this point, because my Drow's already said we need to look at pulling the lane, which I totally agree with. So I'm going to end up looking to get a stack off here. I'm preemptively looking to see if they've tried to block my camp, which they haven't, so I'm happy. What I'm going to do is posture over here so that I can connect if I need to. And now I'm going to stack the camp by running this way so that I'm always connecting back to my core. So I always want to try and keep my core safe as much as possible, but I want to make sure that I'm doing other things as well. Here they make a really dumb play and they just tell me that they've got an observer here, because there's no reason for them to know that I'm here unless they have vision. So I immediately put down a sentry, I get a free deward. Bit of extra gold for me, sure I get a bit of soul assumption damage, but it's not a huge deal. And I know that this camp is stacked now, so a little bit late on the time to pull it, but again, the lane is pushing in, so actually me pulling now would force the lane to come underneath our tower, and then would slingshot it back the other way, because all of these creeps would die too fast. So for now I'm just hanging back. I'm looking to sort of stay in XP range if I can. If you're ever not sure what this is, you can just go onto your hero, hover over your XP bar, and then normally if you hold Alt, I believe, it should show you. Since I'm in a replay, it won't. But that's another way that you can check whether you're still in XP range. And otherwise, I don't want to be showing too much, because otherwise Visage will just harass me. So I'm poking around, looking to see where Visage is. I can see that he's over there. So I'm not looking to engage, because Visage, if we start getting into a trade, he'll just soul assumption me and I'll take a ton of damage. That's why I picked up the wand and the fluffy hat here. It's just I need a bit of extra survivability against the burst. And yeah, so what I'm doing mostly is just playing back. In all honesty, this Drow Ranger pick after I first picked CM is not great, because Drow wants to stay back behind a support, CM as a support wants to stay back, so we've got a bit of a discrepancy here about how to play the lane. So really I've just got to let the Drow play the lane out as best she can, get her as many levels as I can on her, and yeah, now I'm mindful of the fact that since we've hit 5.5 minutes, there's going to be a catapult wave coming in, which you can see has arrived now. So the next thing I need to be wary of is the fact that if they decide to push this wave, then the catapult is going to start doing a bunch of damage onto my tier 1. Since I understand the mechanics of the game, what they want to do is they want to push this wave as quickly as they can, and then start dealing damage to this tower with this first catapult wave. They don't really have the heroes as of yet to take this properly, but once Visage gets level 6 and gets familiars online, then they start posing a much greater threat to my objectives. So I want to, as much as I can, start either clearing waves to clear the catapult, or I want to start aggroing creeps so that they come into tower range and die off, so that then again we can start clearing off the catapult. It's two ways to achieve the same goal, depending on what your strengths are. Between the two of us, we do have a bit of potential to clear waves, but I do also want to try and save my spells to do damage and to potentially save my Drow. If they diver, for instance, I don't really want to use my Frostbite to start putting damage on creeps. I'd rather keep it as a way to negate damage if I can and create space for my Drow to fall back. But as you'll see, we start getting into this very awkward tussle. Another thing to think about, it's around the 6-minute mark, I could look to start rotating mid to help secure power runes, and the same with the water runes as well. But yeah, I found it more of a priority to make sure that my Drow had a good game, because my Death Prophet already had a tier 1 down before 6 minutes, so she was doing really well. She wasn't going to have huge amounts of issues where I'd need to look to help her as well. Drow was much more of a priority for me, and as a position 5 especially, your main priority is always going to be make sure that you give your hard carry the best start that they possibly can. Even if it's a losing lane, you don't just want to abandon the lane. You want to try and salvage as much as you can and just keep them alive the best that you can. So here you can see I'm starting to do a little bit of creep aggression here, so I'm intentionally pulling the wave so that it comes onto tower so that we start getting a little bit of damage off. And yeah, the Visage is continually posturing. I know since I'm weak against the trades against the Visage that I'm playing down here, and this is what I told the Drow to do as well. There were a couple of times she was playing up this side of the trees, and I was telling her, look, you need to play on this side of the wave because it zones the Visage out. Because the only way to get to us is to come through the creep wave. The second Visage starts dealing damage to us, the creeps will aggress onto the Visage. So there's little things to be aware of there, which is a little bit more advanced than what I'm trying to get into with this video. But just being aware of how your matchups play out and when you're strong and when you're weak. And then if you're in the weaker matchup, you want to be playing away from them. You see here, I go to maybe do a half pull or something and then realize that there's a sentry ward there. So I just get it out the way before Visage potentially realizes that I've got one there myself. And then I'll look to try and pull on the next wave. So I'm just sitting here. I've told the Drow that I'm going to pull. So she knows to be careful. And she's also very aware that the Visage is missing as well, which she's pinging out. So again, I'm just looking to do the pull. I fail it slightly and then save it. And yeah, so now I'm just looking to get all of this done. So yeah, there's really not much to go over here. These are sort of your main things. To look after your carry in lane, to harass the off-lane enemy as much as you can, and then block hard camp pulls, and then look to roam mid. If you are stronger in the support matchup, then you can look to trade with the support as well to zone them out, because if you've zoned them out successfully, then they can't do all of the things that they need to do, which the case for position 4 will cover in the next video. So yeah, here, again, a little bit more of the same. Look to secure vision. Looking to try and negate the pull there. Deal a bunch of damage onto the off-lane void in this case. So yeah, I'm just using spells, even though I'm taking a bit of damage from creeps. And now I'll look to make the creep waves match up again. And yeah, so we'll skip forward a bit to sort of mid-game. And we'll go over some more concepts there. Okay, so now we're getting into sort of the mid-game portion. I don't really classify mid-game by any specific timings, because by the nature of Dota, you'll have certain teams that will want to enter certain phases of the game quicker than others. But really, the way that I like to classify the mid-game is that you've got at least 3 towers down. So in this case, we've got all 3 tier 1s down, so top, mid, and bot are all gone. And now the game starts to open up a bit more. So especially with the mid tower being dead, which we had really early on, you can start to make more aggressive plays around the map and start to control it a bit more. So you can see we're just baiting spells out here. I actually chose to, in this instance, I rushed to 4-staff rather than going boots, because the enemy team just had so much catch that I found boots, especially on CM, to be worthless, because by the time the enemy have boots as well, I might as well not have them, and I'd rather have some sort of movement granting ability that, in this case, would let me like push myself over cliffs and stuff like that to potentially outrun heroes like Void that might time warp onto me. Gives me a bit more escape potential than just a pair of boots would. So my main goals now as a position 5 is that I want to start looking to aggress onto the map. So position 5 is all about, in the early game, giving your hard carry the best game that you possibly can for them, and then looking to help mid potentially. In the mid game, you want to transition your focus, as you see here, 4-staffing and aggressively to get off a 3-man ult. You want to shift your focus into helping the rest of the team. So generally your hard carry is going to want to farm behind the team or across the map from the team, and you'll want to start playing with the rest of the team. So your mid laner and your off laner, who will look to be aggressing onto the map and making space. So in this case, there are multiple ways that I could achieve that. I could look to start stacking camps aggressively, so stacking camps on their side of the map once I've established control, and then start to call my hard carry, so my Drow, over to that area to farm safely those stacks under our vision, as well as being connected to the team should a team fight break out. Drow was more comfortable playing on our side of the map, so I wasn't focused on farming camps so much, and instead what I'm focused on here is warding aggressively and looking to make plays. So I do actually end up baiting my team slightly here, because me, the Ogre, and the Tide get a little bit out of position compared to our Death Prophet here. So I eat a Chrono, which honestly I'm not that mad about. My ult was on cooldown, so I wasn't a whole bunch of use. And, I'd rather it on me than somebody like Death Prophet. Even though she dies here, she forgot that she had multiple charges of Soul Siphon left. And she also was just off cooldown from Exo too. That was a bit unfortunate, but we had the right idea here. I've already set up vision, even though it does promptly get dewarded. These are the sorts of things that you want to start thinking about. So yeah, I have my notes here. Help soft support establish aggressive vision. Sometimes it's easier, especially in pubs, just to start doing it yourself as a hard support. Just start buying the wards and the sentries. And yeah, especially like when I'm playing CM, I can start doing things like sentry on the low ground, use Crystal Nova to check a high ground spot, and then if it's got wards up there, I can deward it and then look to ward somewhere else. Or if I see no wards up there, then I can place an observer up there myself and feel relatively safe that they're not going to expect it. In this case, the Venge is playing like ultra conservative and dewards this, so I know that she's likely dewarded this whole area. So we know for now it's not super safe, despite the fact that the Ogre and the Tide decide that they want to contest that area. Which in hindsight is not a smart move. What we should have really done in this instance is look to play bot instead, and look to try and secure vision up this way. Look to see if we can sneak Drow here and farm back. Since we still have our tier 1 here, since it's not dead, we still actually have control over this whole area. So we could have looked to play more conservatively. Since my team wanted to play aggressively, I wasn't going to stop them. This is the sort of behavior that does ultimately win games, even though it doesn't always win every fight. We are making aggressive movements onto the map. We are restricting their vision while we do it. So this is really good discipline between me and the Ogre. Even though the Ogre gets jumped here, like we are forcing a 4 and a 5-man rotation there. We can see that we've got all 5 heroes here. So this is just all space bought. So since we know that, we back off. They decide to aggress as a team and then decide that maybe this isn't a smart idea. And they're all just losing farming time during this. So this is just time for our Drow to free farm. As you can see here, we're 7k net worth up. So because we're forcing them to group, because we're threatening their territory, we just end up making so much space by, mitigating losses where we can, in the case of only Ogre dying in that case. And yeah, just continually looking to, monitor items as well. So Tide tells me that he's near a blink here as well. So I look to go bot. Then Drow and Tide does. Tide realizes that Drow's already there, so cancels the TP and stays where he is in jungle. And then, yeah, so we start getting the idea that Venger's starting to play up in this area. Spectre, for some reason, despite having lost his tower, wants to continue to play up here, which is just really poor on his part. But that's, that's just map awareness. Generally, if I was playing position 1 Drow, for instance, the second that we lose this tower, I'm looking to play behind these ramps, play this side of the map. If they're continuing to aggress into this area, I'm going to start farming over here and then ask my supports to do what we were already doing, establish aggressive vision, and then I'm going to start farming this side of the map. That is just the natural way that the game flows, and that's really good map awareness from the Drow here to realize that she is still safe to farm these camps, but she's much better off farming here, farming mid, farming ancients, connecting up top to push out the wave when she can, and the rest of us will continue to make space, continually, threaten vision over here, restrict the map as much as we can, and, we're always monitoring these lanes, even though in the later stages of the game, the Drow kind of falls off, and I do actually have to remind her to, hey, keep an eye on these lanes, because this is her job, basically, is to farm these, but we'll get to that in the position 1 video. So here, we were initially looking to grab the Spectre, but the Death Prophet decided to go on the Venge instead, so we rotate on the Venge. Can see here I had a bunch of smokes queued up, so we kill the Venge and then we clear this wave, we end up clearing the next one, and then we'll end up smoking up again. Since they've already lost the Venge, it can lull them into a false sense of security that we're not going to do it again, so we decide to play tempo here and do another 4-man smoke to then again aggressively punish the Spectre. So we see that they got vision here, we don't try and deward it, we just jump the Spectre first and we deal with this later. So Ravage, ult, this might seem overkill, but we're not looking to take team fights, so we're happy to use these big team fight ults, knowing that the second that we get the position 1, that's what our goal was, and now we're all trying to back out. So we're doing a little bit of farming here, and then we're all going to fall back. So Tide's going, falling back to push this out. I think this is about the point that I reminded the Drow that this is what she needs to be doing as well. But yeah, looking to aggress, get a pick, fall off, and then, look to stagnate again, watch items. Here, I'm just looking to static the wave around mid, try and scare the Faceless if I can. He's gone a really, really stupid build. But, you know, that is just the way that pubs go sometimes. So we are just looking to continually, you know, we see that the Gyro is out of position. This was a common theme, is that the Gyro would keep pushing this lane way further than he should. I don't know whether that was because they had vision or whether he is just very, very dumb and just wasn't being punished, so you felt confident. Here I had an invis, so I see the chrono goes down. I'm looking to bait, zone if I can. I realize that they see me here, so I keep running. And here my team are taking a really good fight. So I'm looking to, you know, I'm playing for vision mostly because I don't have many skills up that are super helpful right now. Yeah, I decide whether or not to use my spells and realize that's overkill. So I'd rather keep the invis for the info. And I'm essentially just moving as a ward here. So since my invis was about to go off, yeah, here, for some reason it's not showing, but it was about to end, so I just used my skill there. And now I'm deciding what I want to do. So do I want to put vision up here where they're probably expecting me to put it? Then I decide in this case that I might be cheeky and try to make a force staff and then a frostbite play. So I'm just hovering just to see what Visage does, just to see whether he overextends. I'm basically just making space so that if my team decide that they want to dive the tower, they can, and I'm providing a little bit of catch. Here I decide to place a ward, and then I'm going to place a sentry here, knowing that I can clear here with Crystal Nova, and then it clears the other spot too. So here they almost overextend, we find the void, he decides to fall back. Now we decide that now is not the time to try and go high ground. So, I mean, it's only 23 minutes. Don't really have the means, Exo's down, so we don't really want to decide to smoke. Unfortunately, Death Prophet's smoke breaks. And here we decide that we're going to go for Spectre again. Tide was calling everybody, but then realized that Death Prophet didn't, he got the smoke broken. So we decided to make a 3-man play here. This ends up being perfectly fine because I know that I'm just going to force stuff in and ult straight away. And yeah, there's just no chance that Spectre's got any chance of surviving that. So again, just continuing to make space. And let's go back to my view. There we go. So yeah, just continuing to look to aggress onto the map. I spot here that Gyro's again still bot. Yeah, I was a little bit annoyed that the cores weren't dealing with this because I knew that the Gyro was going to stay because he was confident. So they fought, I frostbite him and then lure the creeps back. Very, very aware that I can't take the Gyro. I'm not strong against him. So I'm just pulling the creep wave back and then nuking it under tower range. And then this forces the Gyro to leave because there's no tower pressure he can apply here. Just the whole point of why he was here in the first place. A little bit of free farm, yes, but also to pressure objectives if they're not being defended. Realistically, the Drow should be defending this, but that is what it is. They end up getting jumped mid, which isn't ideal. I have no way to connect to them because my my TP is down, plus I don't have my Crystal Nova, which is really how I'm dealing most of my damage in these fights. So yeah, I'm just de-pushing the wave. I've spotted this was pushed like a minute ago and it still hasn't been cleared. That is just the way that it goes sometimes. They're deciding that this is more important, which to be fair with EXO up is a fair decision. I didn't realize that at the time until I checked and then realized that, okay, they're actually taking a tower, so this isn't the worst situation in the world. And so now I'm looking to start connecting with them. So realistically, I would already be up here. My Crystal Nova, my Freezing Field rather, would be off cooldown. But looking to make a play, instead I'm just securing vision on their side of the map, and then looking to continue to aggress. So yeah, really at this point, you know, the stages rather between mid to late game can be there's a lot of grey areas here. I've had games that have ended by now, where we've taken one set of racks and then just ended the game straight away. I've had other games where, we're at this time and we still haven't taken a tier 1 and neither have they. It really does just depend on the scaling of the heroes and how the game goes. But yeah, at this point, we're starting to very firmly enter into the late game. This is where you're starting to consider like what items as a hard support help you secure team fights, because team fights are going to be what enables you to take objectives generally. As respawn timers start to get longer and longer the longer that the game goes. So in this instance, I've decided that there's just simply too many ways that my Crystal Nova can be stopped whether that be a chronosphere, some sort of magical stun, some sort of physical stun, or just being straight up nuked. So I decided that instead of going something like a BKB or an E-Blade, or doing something cheesy like potentially going for a Glimmer Cape to Glimmer and then ult, which would just get countered by Dust, I'm looking in this case instead to just go straight for a Scepter, and just try and get as much value out of my ults as I can before I'm focused, because it forces a response, right? It forces some sort of stun to come out, and then I can start gaming that. So I can start doing things like sitting back and waiting until Chronosphere comes out. That does other things for me, like it stops Visage's familiars from being able to fly directly to me and stun me. It stops potentially Vengeful Spirit if she's not in the right position to be able to stop me. It stops Gyrocopter potentially being able to throw a missile on me if he's used it already. In this case, I'm still weak to the Spectre, so I have to respect it. And I actually call for a rotation here and then realize that I'm not going to get it. So what I instead decide to do is de-push the wave again, and then I'm going to go and connect to my team because they've got the outpost top. There you go. So I eventually decide to bite the bullet and stop trying to help hold bot and just look to make plays top instead. And we have all of our ults up, so I'm keeping in mind how many abilities come out before it's safe for me to go in. So the big ones are like if Faceless Chronos and I'm not in it, then since I've got my my shard as well, I can sort of stand right outside the edge of Chronosphere and try and maximize the amount of damage that I do. And you'll see here that comes into play. So I'm sitting in the back. I see that Void is shown just top here. So I was watching the minimap and I saw that he showed up here. I know that Venge is all the way back here. The Visage Familiars are here. They both stun out, so I don't have to worry about those. And then I see BKB comes out. He jumps in and Chronos. The ult comes out from Gyro. I feel very safe sitting back here with my ult up. I actually force stuff in, and I'm just using it to shut down an area. And now we're looking to take the racks. So that was just a flawless team fight from us. Void as an offlaner feels compelled to jump in and use Chrono. So understanding that, I know that I can sit back. Because the pressure is on them to overextend rather than for us. If we sit back knowing that we had Exo, we just melt towers. So understanding that as a position 5 and how you contribute to fights, it's really, really strong. Because it means that you get the most out of it, especially when you're playing these heroes like Crystal Maiden. You can just sit back and wait for the enemy to make a mistake and then capitalize on it. You can hear that Tide still had Ravage throughout that whole fight, so he just uses it just to start pushing, just secure kills. And here is really important, so we're looking to clutch out the game now. So, these guys keep getting baited to go and chase. And, never be afraid to just, especially when you don't have things that secure kills off cooldown. Just be disciplined. I'm hitting towers until the point that I start to take damage. And then I'm, stopping the wave and bringing it back in, and then looking to continue to push. So I'm sitting with the Catapult here. Well, they're jerking off around here, wasting Aegis, all that sort of stuff. Just continue. I force out a glyph here because I'm continuing to apply pressure. And this is the way that you win games, not this. This is fun, and I understand that, but if you're looking to climb, this is where it matters. This is Defense of the Ancient, not kill all the heroes. So keep that in mind. We're looking to put pressure on here, and then for some reason, Spectre just loses his rag, he ults and comes onto me, I just instantly ult. Root him, I had no idea why the hell he did that. He just wants to kill me because I killed him so many times apparently. But yeah, and then we close it out. And, I even say, why'd you do such a thing? Because it's so silly. This game is just a foregone conclusion. That is the guide for Position 5. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for sticking around. For those who have stuck around, please consider subscribing if you found this helpful. And I'll see you in the next video.